and
that means a lot because you're a tough guy on me. That's good. That's good.
And there's sequences of yours I love.
Right,
there's
right.
things that you've shot that I love. This to me is the biggest meal you've ever served up.
Yeah.
And it's almost an hour for that.
50 minutes. Yeah.
Wow, it's just unbelievable. The physical staging of it, as well as how you mix everything.
Right.
When you read something like that, and you've really first laid that out for yourself.
Well, I work with Aaron Kruger. Every writer needs to, when they work with me, because I write my own action. So once we have our plot and we know where we're going, it's like I start thinking, how am I going to make this puzzle new and different? So I create these action scenes, things that I haven't done that I want to see. If I were a viewer, how would I want to see someone take down a Transformer intimately, you know?
Greetings, humans, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode. Bear here, 29-year veteran of the woods and smarter than the average human. Well, today Bear gets tired of waiting on his home delivery of salmon. So he goes back outside the river and tries to find some delicious frogs to make himself some tasty frog legs. Yes, indeed. And Bear will put the recipe down in the description below for you good humans. Yes, indeed. But, first, Bear's review of the comic book called, what is it here? Yes, CyberFrog. Oh man, that's embarrassing. Okay. CyberFrog, Blood Honey, written in artwork by Ethan Van Sciver, and All Caps Comics. That's right, All Caps Comics. Do check them out. Well, okay, once again, Bear was out the other day, foraging through the neighborhood trash cans, all lined up when the postman comes up with the package, destined for little Timmy McTiverson. But one look at Bear and, the postman dropped the package and ran. So Bear have it now. Well, Bear will open it up for you good humans, and if you haven't already seen Bear's box open, do check that out. Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. Inside was the much-talked-about book, CyberFrog, from YouTube sensation Ethan Van Driver. Does Bear think that this was all worth the hype? Well, follow along and Bear will review it for you good humans. Yes? Okay, alright. What is CyberFrog? Well, he's a cybernetic frog, created by an alien force and sent to Earth. The alien, known as Keung, creates twins, CyberFrog and his brother Salamandroid, to help protect the human race from another alien species known as the Vespas. The Vespas are intent on invading Earth and feeding on the flesh of humans. Very much. Bear approved. After a freak accident, CyberFrog is knocked out and knocked offline from Sal and Keung. Presumed dead. After many years, CyberFrog reawakens and returns, only to find the world taken over by the bee-like Vespas. With Keung offline and Sal missing, CyberFrog returns to his old home in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. Can CyberFrog reunite with this family and save the world from a killer alien bee invasion? Well, Bear doesn't really know. Just kinda ends suddenly. But, if you would like to see Bear's review, skip ahead to this mark. Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. But to fully understand this comic is to understand the history of CyberFrog and how it came to be. CyberFrog, along with Jawbreakers from Richard C. Meyer, were the two foundations that the Comicsgate movement is built on. Comicsgate, as defined as a consumer revolt against the progressive corporatism and towards the individual creator, thus allowing fans to interact with these creators in a fun, natural, and respectful
5
manner.
different times in the same panel.
Right here, you mean?
Oh no, well, let's just drink this in. So this is M, the leader of what is it, MI6?
Mm-hmm.
Is that James Bond? He's like, step into my office. Okay, don't anyone sit in front of me. James Bond, you're going to be to the right of me by 5 feet. New girl, 10 feet to the left. Just awkward.
Maybe with a feng shui.
And look at the poor colors. What he had. Look at the Herculean effort he did with James Bond's shadow. Just to remind you, yes, this is a James Bond book. You know, let's give him some prominence at all.
Yeah. That laptop's huge. Somebody points out that laptop is enormous.
I actually had a laptop that large in like 2008.
Yeah.
Remember when that was like a thing for your laptop to be huge? You're like, look at the screen.
I know. Now it's like
weighs 5 pounds.
But I mean, this is. I mean, you look at the amount of work that went into this panel. I mean, there's nothing there. It makes me, people tell me all the time, they're like, "You're over rendering. There are too many lines in your comics, and you're doing it to hide your shortcomings." I'm like, no, I'm doing it to show off my strengths.
Platforms like the Comic Artist Pro Secrets YouTube channel rack up thousands of subscribers and followers for their full-throated defense of the cultural norms and against the ongoing creep of cultural Marxism. Crowdfunding sites, like our friends at Indiegogo, allow these creators to fund their dreams to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and started a revolution in comics publishing. Following in these footsteps were hits like Graveyard Shift, Lone Star, and Bigfoot Bill. The future now wide open as the mainstream media on notice. But always the question, how will these smaller comic creators fare against the industry's best? If you've seen Bear's video, you know that he holds Battle Maiden Knucklebomb for first-time artist Keung Lee in high regard, not only for its artwork and story, but also its packaging and presentation. The original Battle Maiden campaign made over $48,000, fulfilled the orders, and now takes orders for a second round. CyberFrog earned between $500,000 to nearly $1 million.
Not bad for a book about a cybernetic frog and his salamander brother there. In any case, this book has been the source of a lot of controversy because at the moment it has raised, I think, $12,000 shy of $1 million. It is huge, and it's really showing Marvel Comics.
The sales and revenue tell one story, but what about the quality of these new creator-owned books? One of the main focuses of these new creators is customer service. YouTube offers a unique platform for promotion, but also for interacting with fans and backers. The original CyberFrog campaign ended on July 2018, with an expected delivery date of winter that year. But the shipping date slipped to September of 2019. Some orders, like the Ashcan tier, arrived months later.
We're fulfilling CyberFrog Blood Honey, at least the team-up cover, which came in first. We're waiting on the, Chromium first campaign and second campaign, the CyberFrog and Salamandroid versions, but they're going to be in later this week. No reason to wait.
Bear did a series of videos counting these days gone by. There were few explanations and even fewer answers. And in Bear's humble estimation, this was the wrong move. Keeping backers in the dark, rarely releasing information, and burying info in a 3-hour live stream isn't the best customer service.
This would make this a 3-pie week. This would be my 3rd pie, I think, this week, if I got another pie. it has been a good week. CyberFrog Blood Honey is out now. People are getting it. We've had 2 days of people actually receiving their books, and that's outstanding.
A simple 2 or 3 minute bi-weekly video explaining the process would have at least let everyone know what was going on with the book. But now that Bear has his claws on it, what does he think of this long-awaited comic book? CyberFrog is a beautiful comic book worthy of its place in history, but is also a product compromised by design choices that undercut the final intent. CyberFrog is stapled together, forming a natural bow from the center page and compounded by the chromium cover. Other stapled books, like Bear-approved Battle-Maiden Knucklebomb, rest relatively flat. And while the chromium cover is a bold and unique artistic choice, it also introduces several complications. First is the bowing. Then there is the pages themselves. The cover dictated page thickness, leading to thinner pages, causing the highly colorful and highly detailed artwork to slightly warp. While it doesn't affect the read or the enjoyment of the book, it is noticeable in certain light. Proof of the better option, ironically enough, comes from the Amphibionics Ashcan. It has a thicker page, which reduces the warping. But what about the story, you ask? Is that any good? Well, CyberFrog has its moments, both excellent and not so much. Technically, CyberFrog looks amazing. Kyle Ritter has such striking colors combined with a style of his own, while Somni letters each character with a unique voice and superb flair. Bear never got lost and enjoyed the artistic talents assembled here. Bear was in awe of the look of CyberFrog and his gritty 1990s inspired world. CyberFrog Blood Honey is divided into 3 parts and 2 Ashcans. Some of you humans did not get the Ashcans, so Bear will review them for you as a whole. The first part is Bear's favorite, Keung's journey to Earth and failed attempt to save the humans from the invading Vespas. She searches for a worthy human to merge with, but crash lands in the New Jersey Pine Barrens, merges with a simple frog and salamander instead, giving them powers to fight off the incoming Vizbaz invasion. But they are shunned by the humans, except for Heather Swain, who shelters the duo in her run-down apartment. The first part ends on an ominous note. Flash forward after the Vizbaz invasion and Keung is dying. Something's happened. The invasion wasn't thwarted, and CyberFrog is nowhere to be found. The second part flashes back to right before the Vizbaz invasion. There are 3 different narrative voices here. Bill Clinton's impeachment, Keung trying to protect a group of humans, and CyberFrog battling hooligans when the Vizbaz invasion hits. CyberFrog is injured in the attack and falls into a deep sleep. Hibernation, very much Bear approved. Part 3 is also the shortest. CyberFrog narrates his own story, returning years later to find the world has changed. CyberFrog leaps into action to go find his friends in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. That's it. The story just ends. The Ashcans offer a bit of context, but it's not much. The Amphibionics Ashcan sits between Part 1 and Part 2 of the main comic, showing a day in the life of CyberFrog. The theme here is totally different. slapstick humor, where the main comic was much more serious. The second Ashcan fits in much better, filling in some of the details from Part 2 and Part 3 of the main comic, told from the perspective of Heather Swain during the Vizbaz invasion. I would have liked to have seen the 1998 Ashcan incorporated into the main story. It filled in some important details and gave Heather a larger and more empathetic voice. All told, there are between 3 and 5 different narrative points of view. 3 alone in the second part, and adds up to a narrative mess. Even with the additional Ashcans, many things don't make sense. For example, CyberFrog battles some thugs in Philly before the Vespa arrive. But wait, they're also bees? Cybernetic bees? But they have nothing to do with the Vizbaz invasion, and are, in fact, as surprised as CyberFrog. So who are these other bees? Were they made like CyberFrog? If they're not Vespa, then why make them bees in the first place? Wouldn't the hooligans in Philly be better off as everyday goons? Was it the message that CyberFrog is shunned by humans? Is it this confusing and otherwise great action sequence, for a bit of fan service? Much of the problem with CyberFrog is that it is trying to please several audiences at once. The main story is an alien invasion story, and with the exception of the time jumps, is pretty straightforward. Just about anyone can get into the story and be entertained. But the second audience are people who have bought CyberFrog in the past. CyberFrog is trying to tell a new story, but doesn't bother to reboot the 1990s CyberFrog. It tries to fill in the gaps that many of the new readers, including Bear, are simply not aware of. The problems confuse and confound an otherwise deep and compelling story, the decline in human morals in culture, which is one of the reasons why Mr. Ethan Van Halen's channel is so popular. His unique take on these societal ills, even influencing Bear to do his own channel, which is why it is so hard to do a review like this. In 2011, the film Transformers 3 set box office records, visual effects records.
Devastator, our largest guy, the guy that tears the pyramid apart, took 72 hours of frame to render. And he's composed of 6 to 8 gigantic earth-moving vehicles.
And a Guinness World Record for the largest explosion caught on film.
You'd show up on set and suddenly there'd be 3 tanks and 2 Bradley fighting vehicles, and we were going to have a flyover from B-1 bombers. F-22s flying over the set that day. F-16s were going to do flyovers and drop flares on us. You know, we had 8 cameras pointing at it, and they made it look sexy as hell on film, and it was a lot of fun.
The aircraft carrier sequence was a very, very difficult sequence.
And one cannot deny the expertise and skill of director Michael Bay in bringing this rich and detailed world to life.
Everything about Transformers is big, huge. It was difficult. The shots were lengthy. The assets were large. They were so big we used up more memory and space at ILM than any other film in the history of the company. And at the same time, the crew had a lot of fun because they loved the work they were doing.
But does anyone remember that work? Those world records? That boundary-pushing technology and all that went into it? Quick, name one thing you remember about Transformers 3. And there lies the issue. After all the pomp, and all the circumstance, and all the hype and boastfulness, what are we left with? Where does CyberFrog sit in comic book history? As a creator-owned property, brought to life through crowdfunding and social media presence, CyberFrog was a smashing hit, blazing a trail for many to follow. As a coherent story, though, it was a mess, and the shipping was troubled to say the least. Meanwhile, the packaging was plain, and the chromium cover gave bare issues. But after all is said and done, there's only one metric that matters. Is this comic Bear approved or not? Well, Bear can tell you with the utmost confidence that CyberFrog by Ethan Velveeta is very much Bear approved.
Right.
This feels like you have come to a conclusion of sorts with this property. Was that by design? Do you feel like?
Because this has been 5.5 years, and I've thought a lot about robots, and it's like it's time to try something different. It's a great, fascinating world to play in. I've had 4,000 crew members on this one. It was just, it was a real fun experience. This whole thing has been fun. You know?
Michael, I want to thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks, man.
And really, I think it feels like a graduation of sorts for Shia, for you guys on this series, and
thanks.
Greatest place you could possibly leave it.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.
See you. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Humans, thank you for watching this video. If you wish to have more, please like and subscribe. And don't forget that bell for notification. It would please Bear very much. You don't want to see Bear bad, do you? Grrrrrr.